Hello, everyone. This is Q of the MJCast. It's episode 104. It's our June 25th special. And today I'll be joined by my co-host Jamon and special guest, mega Michael fan Jenny Winings, who's going to be sharing a number of stories about not only being a fan, some amazing fan experiences, but also some of the times that she's actually spent with Michael Jackson. For example, Jenny stayed at Neverland Ranch. So we hope you enjoy some of these amazing fan stories. We'll also be sharing how Michael should be remembered, clips from previous special guests, and we've got some musical tribute breaks. This is episode 104, June 25th special with Jenny Winings.
The following is a presentation from the MJCast, the internet's premier podcast on all things Michael Jackson.
You're listening to the MJCast. By MJ fans, for MJ fans.
The idea is to innovate, or else why am I doing it?
When I create my music, I feel like an instrument of nature.
You let it create itself, really. I know I do. And I love to entertain. That's one of my favorite things. I love my fans. Just simply Michael Jackson.
Welcome to the MJCast, your source of news and discussion on the King of Pop.
Jamon, hello, welcome. Episode 104.
Here we are. Geez, it's been a big month, hey?
June is always a crazy and very busy month, and we are doing very well to get this out as well as the other two episodes already.
Yeah.
Thank you for all of your editing time.
You got it.
You have a little bit of a breather after this.
Yeah, I'm going on hiatus for July. You're on your own, mate.
Oh, God. Jenny, I'd like to welcome you to the MJCast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure.
Where are you Skyping in from?
I am in Cincinnati, Ohio, in USA.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Have you been there, Q?
I've been to a theme park near there. Was it called
Kings Island?
Kings Island. Yes, my awesome friend Tim, he took me there when we were visiting him. So is that close to Indianapolis?
Yep, it's about 2 hours away, yeah.
And he took us to that incredible amusement park with those wicked coasters.
Yep, that's pretty awesome.
There you go. Small world after all.
It really is.
We have chatted before, but we haven't broadcast our chat that we've had because our plan changed when we heard some of your amazing stories. And we're really, really thrilled that we are able to sort of remember Michael with some of these amazing stories from a real fan, because we were considering using some of your stories as like a discussion topic in a regular episode. But then we got chatting with you and there was so much there, and we both decided pretty quickly that this actually deserves a whole show. And even today, we're not going to be able to cover every wonderful fan experience you've had with Michael, but we're going to hopefully touch on some key ones. We hope that these wonderful memories of yours and your incredible stories will help fans as we remember Michael today.
I'm always ready to talk about Michael, so...
Well, that works out well for us.
Yeah.
It's never an easy time of year, is it? It's for me, it always feels when we get into the second half of June, things just sort of sink in my world. And I remember, what went on 10 years ago. Is that the same for you guys as well?
Definitely. I mean, it takes me right back to that day. Right back to that day.
But one thing that helps is chatting about people's memories and their own love for Michael Jackson. Well, it helps me at least.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely. And remembering that we all share in that grief. We all share in that huge loss that we are all still so feeling today, completely feeling that today. And it'll probably never really go away. Not for me, at least. I can't ever envision that it will go away. We want people out there to know that they're not alone in this, and that there's people out there feeling and heartbroken and just devastated still. And it's 10 years on. That
Crazy.
Time has gone so fast.
Well, and it's nice that we're talking about it too, because we're 12 hours apart. So we all live all over the world. So it's not like I can just go to work and talk to my friends about it because they'll think like, okay, crazy person.
Yeah.
So it's nice that we can all like, use the internet to talk about it and use this podcast to talk about it
and hopefully make other people listening feel a bit better about it and feel less alone.
And for those people as well that can't make it out to places like LA where Brad Sundberg's doing his awesome big MJ week thing, hopefully we can bring a bit of comfort to people as well. So
yeah, for sure.
That is the goal. Well, we've got a short list of questions for you because we know that your answers won't be short, and we hope that we get to cover some of the most amazing experiences that any fan could ever have dreamt of. But the first question we would love to ask you, Miss Jenny Winings, is how did you become a Michael Jackson fan?
The first memory that I have is being in the back of my dad's car, going through a car wash and listening to the Bad album. So 1987, I was 5 years old. And then it just went on from there. And as I got older, like in junior high, about junior high or beginning of high school is when I really started to get into the kind of person he was, the humanitarian he was, look into more than just the music. That's pretty much how. And I remember even being in junior high, like in high school, just defending him all the time. So it goes back quite a bit for me.
That's cool. I can relate to that for sure. Were you the kind of fan who was putting little touches on your clothing and stuff at school and making your school diary covered all in MJ pictures and stuff like that?
I didn't do that back then, but once I graduated high school and when I went to Madison Square Garden after that, that was it for me. Like
Right.
I covered my whole room. I mean, I have pictures. You can barely see my walls when I still lived with my parents because I was like, I saw him the one time and that was it. I was like, okay, I'm hooked. And I just like I would print every single picture out I saw online and tape it to my wall. It was crazy looking back at it. People think I'm obsessed now, which I'm not obsessed anymore. But when I'm like, oh yeah, look at this picture, look at my room, how it used to be, and people are, what?
You mean you had stuff on the ceiling? I was like, yeah, I had stuff on the ceiling because there was no more space on the walls.
Exactly. And my parents would always be like, well, Jenny, it's better to be, addicted and obsessed to Michael Jackson than drugs or alcohol. And I'm like, I like that. I'm going to use that.
Michael was your drug.
So, yes.
Insert Jana eating chips gif here. It's true, though.
I mean, yeah, my wife back then was like, where's the next place I'm flying to? So, yeah, that was totally my hobby or whatever you want to call it.
I think there's a lot of people out there very much going, yep, that was me. That was me.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I'm sure there are.
And I always got the, when you leave here, you're repainting these walls. I was like, okay, that's what I have to do. That's fine.
But while I'm here, this is how it is. Sorry, Mom.
Yep, pretty much.
You don't have to ever come in my room.
When I was at school, we had to wear black long pants and black leather shoes because I went to a private school and we had a pretty strict uniform. We also had to wear black socks, but my friends and teachers always used to ask me why I broke that uniform code and wore white socks. But hey,
that's funny.
Got to do it. Got to do what you got to
do. Such a rebel, Jamon.
I know. White socks.
White socks. Whoa. Your parents would have been like, "Oh God, he's on the road to like jail with white socks."
Oh,
he's like writing Michael a postcard like, "So today I got my 6th detention for wearing white socks in your honor."
They weren't sparkly, but hey.
Well, it was. They knew what you meant.
They did.
That is hilarious. Okay, cool. So yeah, we got that in common. All right. So you did mention there that, Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
So was that the first time you saw Michael?
Yes. So that was, 2001. So before, there was chat rooms back then. So I had found a chat room and I had been in there for a few months and some people in there were going. I just remember I was 19 and I just, wanted to go. I just felt like I had to go. So I bought a $530 ticket for the first show on Friday, September 7th. My mom, my aunt, my best friend, and my sister and I flew out there. I went to the show that night. That was incredible. I was just walking down Times Square. I don't know if either of you have ever been to New York, but it's super crowded.
It's very awesome. I love Times Square.
Yeah, so we're walking from the hotel to Times Square, and my friend runs up to me, who I'd only known in the chat room, and grabs my arm, and my mom was about to like punch him because she didn't know who he was. And he was like, MJ Gen 2000? And I knew exactly who he was, but back then we only knew each other by screen names, and my mom just thought this random guy was coming up to me. So
she thought Jenny's getting kidnapped in New York. The stories about New York are true.
Yeah, right. And so, but yeah, that was pretty awesome. So Friday I went to the concert, and then Saturday there was a fan get-together event, and then I flew back home Sunday morning, and my dad picked me up from the airport, and I cried the whole way home because I wasn't going to the Monday night show. I seriously sat in the car and cried. So I went into work. I got off work on Monday. I flew back to New York Monday, September 10th.
Oh my God.
I went up to Madison Square Garden, bought a ticket for $300 and something, went to that show.
Wow.
And then took the last flight out of New York on 9/11 back home.
Oh my God.
That was like by that time, the most amazing weekend of my life. And then, of course, flying out on 9/11, then that happened. But it was very surreal, like 4 days, it was crazy.
You must have flown out pretty early because on 9/11, the planes were all grounded, weren't they? Like by,
Yes, my flight, I worked for Delta Airlines at the time, so I flew standby. So I got on if a seat was open. And I called my dad from the airport because I didn't think I was going to get on the plane. And if I missed work due to missing a flight, I would get in trouble because it's up to us to see what flights we can take. I got the last seat on the last flight. I landed in Cincinnati at 7:30 a.m. and the first plane hit like at 8:45 or somewhere around there. So it was pretty nuts. Wow. It was pretty crazy.
Okay, so Madison Square Garden, which is the actual shows that made Jamon a fan, which is pretty cool that you got to see those shows.
Yeah.
Is there any really amazing sort of special moments from those shows that you'd like to share?
Not really. Because I went by myself. My sister went because we tried to, I don't even remember what happened, but we had an extra ticket or something, and she ended up going, but we didn't sit together. So I was just sitting by myself, and just the first time that him and his brothers came on stage, I just remember screaming my little 19-year-old heart out and crying because I just couldn't believe that I was in the same building as Michael Jackson. Like, I was freaking out.
Wow.
And then again, that's why I flew home and literally flew back the next day to do it all over again.
Post-concert depression's a real thing.
I was so shocked at myself. And my dad, I remember driving home from the airport, and he was like, "What is wrong with you?"
Yep.
I'm like, "Dad, you don't understand."
They don't understand. They don't get it.
And I never had that feeling before ever, like I'd been to concerts. So it was just the feeling was so overwhelming.
Speaking of overwhelming, that moment when the Jacksons sort of rise up and Michael, I remember when we got to see the telecast of it, that I was sitting on the floor. I think my sister was next to me. And when those trumpet sounds, the horns.
Oh my gosh. I literally just got chills.
Burst into tears. Like I was a flood of tears. Who would have ever dreamed of seeing them all together again? And, it was the new era, and it was just such a magic moment.
And like the electricity inside Madison Square Garden. Now, they were delayed because there was like an hour and a half, 2 hours of everyone else performing, before him and his brothers came on. And then it was started late. So it was a long time before they came on. I'm sure we were all like more than ready for it. But as soon as they came up and he was in that white jumpsuit with the helmet, nothing else in the world mattered. Nothing. Nothing mattered. I don't even know if I knew my name. Like, I didn't care. I was like, Michael Jackson's on stage. So it was amazing.
Yeah, wow, that's cool. And when you saw those two shows, had you watched many Michael Jackson concerts and performances and things on TV before then? Or was this sort of like your first time?
So I have a whole VHS collection of Michael Jackson stuff, like concerts, like even him in depositions, and I have like 19 or 20 VHS tapes that back in the day I bought from somebody in the chat room or something, and they shipped them to me. So I knew, yes, I did. To answer your question.
Yeah, cool. So you were pretty familiar. So like what I want to ask is I'm really, really fascinated by this because I don't think I've spoken to anyone before ever who went to both shows. So when you saw the second show, were you thinking back and making any comparisons between them, or like which one stood out to you as the better one?
I mean, I don't even know. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember because each show had different people before them. Like, you know, Britney Spears was on Friday night, but she wasn't there Monday night. It was another girl that did The Way You Make Me Feel with him. And then Friday and Monday, the performers were different. And then they took some from each and put them together. And that's what you saw on TV.
Yeah.
Because each show was like 4 hours long.
Yeah.
Nothing really sticks out differently. It was just awesome. It was just amazing the second time as it was the first time.
That's so cool. I'm so jealous. Yeah, it would have been so much fun to be at.
Except for these people next to me kept telling me to sit down. I just looked at them like, are you? Yes. I obviously ignored them and I just looked at them. Are you crazy? Do you not? Why are you here? If you're sitting down, why are you even here? There are people that would want your tickets that would appreciate this more than you. That's what I just kept thinking. But
yeah. So what was the highlight of the MSG shows for you?
Probably him doing all his solo songs, seeing him do the moonwalk in person and just him being up there by himself.
How was the crowd reaction to the Motown 25 recreation?
Literally, since the first part of that music came on and you knew it was time for them to come out, it did not stop until the end of the concert.
Wow.
It was just nonstop screaming and crying and singing and dancing and yeah.
That moonwalk was fire.
Yeah, it was good. Show me a bad one.
You got us. Obviously, you know, we're talking to you because you got some great stories, and a lot of these stories are because you have, like, you've met Michael, like you've hung out with him and stuff, basically.
Yes.
But we would love you to share for all the fans out there the first time that you met Michael Jackson, please.
So the first time I met him was at the Virgin Megastore signing.
Oh, he's got the cool blue ribbons on his hands and stuff, which I used to go clubbing with that on. I used to wrap ribbons around my hand.
What he was wearing when I first saw him. I was like, what is this?
What is this? What is this tracksuit? What is these boxing ribbons?
Yeah, but
we're still wondering that.
I'm still wondering that. Yeah, like when I think of that, that's the first thing I think of is his outfit. I'm like, what?
Yep.
And when the blue boots or whatever, I'm just like.
And then the hair. We're like, what was with the hair? Anyway,
I don't know what was going on. Anyways, yeah.
Let's get to the good stuff.
So I was in Florida, staying at my grandparents' house when it came on a Monday night that he was doing this Virgin Megastore signing. For the first time ever, he was doing an album signing. Well, I went to my grandma and I said, Grandma, can you take me to the airport in 30 minutes? I'm going to New York. And she was like, by yourself? I'm like, yep, I'm going to New York. And my grandma, I mean, I was an adult. So she was like, okay. Probably like, what? But
wow.
30 minutes, I packed a bag, and she took me to the airport. I flew from Orlando, Florida to New York City, got in a taxi, and said, just take me to Times Square. So the taxi dropped me off at Times Square, and I saw a handful of people. I was number 7 in line. So I got there Monday night, probably at like 10 or 11 p.m.
Lucky number 7.
Yes, that is my favorite number 2. So I just got in line, and that was Monday night, and we stayed outside all night Monday, all day Tuesday, and Wednesday morning. By this time, there was 3,500 people in line by Wednesday morning in just 36 hours. 3,500 people.
Holy moly.
They had to put barriers up. I mean, we looked like caged animals. It was kind of funny, but we were like behind barriers, and so Wednesday morning, they passed out numbers. I think it was only 500 people got in. And thank God, once they gave the numbers, they were like, okay, you can, you have a few hours. You don't have to be back in line for a few hours. And I could not wait to go get a shower, and like eat something because I had been sleeping is putting it one certain way, but I'd been outside in Times Square on the floor. It snowed a little bit. Somebody I was with walked down the street and bought a big comforter and came back. I mean, it was a long time to be outside. So
okay, I've got a question.
Yes.
How did you, like, I guess before the numbers were handed out, so you were there for like 2 nights, really. How did you eat and bathroom and how did you survive?
So right down, like 2 stores down was a McDonald's. And since I was one of the first in line, we would all we knew who each other were. So we would go down and get something to eat or go to the bathroom or something and come back. Okay, so you would the groups was holding people's place in line while they could survive. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But once more people got there, well, I guess I could still do that. I don't even remember like all the details, but everyone knew who we were, especially in the front part of the line because we had been there already for a day and a half. So, yeah. The struggle is real, people. The struggle is real. So real. And it's funny, like thinking about what I went through after that. I don't know if I would have waited that long overnight twice in New York just to like walk up to him and cry my eyes out in front of his face. But I probably would. Yeah, I think you probably would. I probably would. Yeah. Okay. So it's the day of the meet and greet. You've got your numbers. This still blows my mind that it's his first ever meet and greet. That's just crazy. What happens? So we come back, and the next thing I remember is everybody. So the Virgin Megastore in Times Square was 2 floors, maybe 3. I don't really remember, but I just remember being on the bottom level. So we were underneath street level. And all hundreds of us were just there waiting for him. And they had TVs in there. And all of a sudden on the TVs, they had MTV on. And there he was right in front of the store we were all in because we were watching it like everyone else was seeing it on TRL on MTV. We're just all in the bottom of Virgin Megastore looking at these TVs and seeing him right outside the store, you know, and everybody was running over. And he did that for a few minutes, then came inside. And then it was just taking turns going up and having him sign a copy of Invincible and talking to him, or in my case, not saying a word really, just crying and him asking me if I was okay. Like, oh my gosh. But I have a picture holding the album. My face is as red as a tomato. I'm just so happy and crying. And yeah, I was probably on cloud 9. I don't really remember a lot from after that, but. What was it like as you sort of walked up to the meet and greet table and you were seeing Michael Jackson in front of you, not like in a concert setting? Right. What was that feeling like? I probably how you think you would feel. That's probably what I was feeling. Just, I don't even know if I don't know. I mean, speechless and shocked and surreal and amazing. It was just everything in one. And it lasted like 5 seconds. But it was worth it. In the footage of the Virgin Megastore signing, because I think there's like a really long video of it, isn't there, on YouTube? There is, yeah. So can we see you in that? No. They cut away to some guy talking on a microphone during me walking up there. I know. But I do see a lot of other people that I met after that over the years. I see them on it. So that's pretty cool to rewatch it. But of course not. No. Isn't there a really funny moment in it where a woman asks Michael to marry her or something? I have a faint memory of that. Probably. And I think he agrees or something. Something weird happens where he's like, yeah, sure. I'll have to go back and watch it. Probably. Yeah, there probably is. I just remember the bit where he's really fascinated by a girl's belly button ring. I think that was just Michael being like, she's hot. Oh yeah, he was flirty as that day. There's audio of him, I think, talking to security guards. My good friend who I experienced a lot of my MJ stuff with lived in France, and she's the blonde in the video that he asked her phone number, and he was talking to Frank about her, and she came up and gave him a hug. And that's like my really good friend who did everything I'm about to tell you about with me. But wow. Yeah.
Look at me, my life's like a movie, but this is real life, you should sue me. Sit back and watch me do me, I mean kick back. Bruce Lee, am I a knockout? Yeah, probably, but don't get punched out. Ali, media should've left him alone, but he kept jabbing Sylvester Stallone. I don't worry too much about looks and stares, I'm a modern day Fred Astaire. This is new life, no abortion, surrounded by flames, bring torches, been under microscopes since adolescence, but being this famous is rather stressing. No more second guessing, I'm back to the bench, pressing. Tell me what you see when you see me. Real life, this is not TV. My life is a movie, life is a movie, life is a movie. I know you've seen it before, they all wanna see me fall. My life is a movie, life is a movie, life is a movie. Spotlight off, good night. Let us reveal the few good types. Me defeated is what they would like, but in the darkness you will see good light. I keep sailing, my boat's kinda nice, but these sharks, they could bite. Switch the channel, on to the next one. Broadcasting live, I am the best one. Born to win since the baby carriage. Went from nothing to a king's palace. Heart of a prince, blood of a lion. There is no denying this legacy, you can't tarnish. I was raised by the greatest, I promise. Honestly, I'm honored. See, the bigger the star, the bigger the target. Tell me what you see when you see me. Real life, this is not TV. Our life is a movie, life is a movie, life is a movie. I know you've seen it before, they all wanna see me fall. My life is a movie, life is a movie, life is a movie. Yeah, tell me what you see when you see me. Real life, this is not TV. My life is a movie, life is a movie, life is a movie. Yeah, tell me what you see when you see me. Real life, this is not TV. My life is a movie, life is a movie, life is a movie.
Hi, this is Terrell Jackson, and you're listening to the MJCast.
So, Jenny, obviously, today we're helping each other, hopefully helping other people. But I guess a tough story that it might not be super easy to talk about, but we'd love if you could help answer it, was, years later, so 10 years ago from now, where were you and how did you hear the news that Michael passed away?
It's been 10 years, but doesn't it seem like yesterday or 1 year ago. I mean, I cannot believe it's been 10 years. I was at work that morning, Farrah Fawcett passed away. So I remember I was a bartender at a restaurant and saw that, and we were talking about that at work. Now, anytime a celebrity passed, people would ask me all the time, what would you do if Michael died? And I'd be like, oh, I don't even want to think about that. Let's not talk about that. So I leave my job and go to another restaurant where I had a lot of friends. It was right next to my work. And we're sitting there, and I was talking to my friend, and she asked me that. She goes, we were talking about Farrah Fawcett. And she was like, oh my gosh, Jenny, what would you ever do if Michael died? And I was like, what I said. Oh, girl, I don't even know. Like, I would just stay locked in my house for days. I'd be depressed, whatever. So then I start getting a few phone calls from my friends that I'd met over the years. And they're like, have you heard about Michael? They're saying that he's going to the hospital. And you know how we all did. Anytime something happened, we were like, yeah, another rumor. It's probably nothing, because you know how they exaggerate everything with him. So I was like, oh, well, nothing's on the radio. We didn't have smartphones then, I don't think. I was like, okay, whatever. I remember getting up and I looked at my friends and I was like, all right, I'm going to go. They're saying my boyfriend is in the hospital. That's literally the words I use, like joking, like, okay, they're saying my boyfriend went to the hospital. I got to go see what's going on. So I drove to my parents' house, which was about 5 minutes from my job, and they were out of town. So it was just me there. And I turned on the news, and then that's when everything was happening. That's when they said he had cardiac arrest. And I turned on the TV quite a while before they confirmed that he had passed. So at this point, we all were just glued to the TV. I mean, and everybody was fan, not fan, old, young, it doesn't matter. And my phone was going crazy, and you didn't know what was real and what wasn't. But of course, when they're talking about somebody having cardiac arrest, I knew that it was serious. And that's when I really started thinking, okay, if he makes it through, because they were talking about people with cardiac arrest, if they have brain damage. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if he does survive whatever he's dealing with, what is he going to be like? Is he going to be like the Michael that we've all known over these years? So that was going through my head. I remember going online, and as much as TMZ is a tabloid, unfortunately, they're pretty much right, and they know a lot of information before anyone else. And they were the first ones to put it on their website. And as soon as I saw that, it was like I'm sure everybody felt. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. I just started crying, like hyperventilating, crying. Everybody was calling me, and I couldn't talk to anybody. And I did call my parents. They were driving home from our lake house. And I just said, I was like, I told them what just happened. And I think that the whole world was in shock when that happened. It was just, you could not fathom waking up on June 25th, 2009, that is how the day was going to end. I mean, and then I thought, well, that whole part of my life that I've had for 8-9 years, that's gone. Well, I mean, I'll never see my friends again that I saw from all over the world for the past, 7, 8, 9 years. That whole part of my life is just gone.
Did you have plans to go to This Is It?
Yes, I had tickets for August 30th, so the day after his birthday. Yep, I did. And, and that's why I like that we're talking about this and other people will hear it, because for my friends at work or people that I'm not super close to, if I were to sit here and tell them how I felt and how I was acting, and it was like one of the most terrible days of my life, obviously besides anybody in my family or friends, passing away, I don't think they would understand. But the community that we have, this MJ fan base, man, it is strong. And I think we all felt the same way. We still feel the same way. It was terrible. And I remember finally getting home, and I remember when Jermaine came out and announced it. I mean, it's shocking. Like, you just had to stare at the TV like, is this for real? It was terrible.
Whoa, that's tough. I'm like, pretty choked up after hearing your story.
Yeah, and then the radio station or the news or somebody. So I don't know if I called or wrote them or something, and I kind of, very shortly said, "Hey, I've been following him for 8 years." They actually came over to my apartment that night, and I did an interview with them. And looking back on it, I just looked completely in shock. Like, I just kept saying he is, and I remember going, was, and I can't believe I'm saying was, and just I looked like I was just completely shell-shocked from the whole thing. So it was really, really terrible,
I think, we'd lost someone that meant the world to us, and people that don't love someone like that, they don't understand. He was a family member. He was like a best friend. He was a superhero. He was, our hero. And just because we didn't know him personally, even though, you were lucky and have got some stories you're going to share where, you actually did know him and hung out with him, people just don't understand that just because we didn't know him personally, that it could affect us as much as it did.
I get it, but everybody felt that same way, whether you were like me who had met him many times or whether you never did. And, we all were feeling the same exact emotions that day. No matter if you met him or spent time with him, it was such a weird connection that he could give to you through his music. Helping people through their lives with his music, and it was just bizarre that everyone was feeling the same emotion all over the world where people coming out, the candlelight vigils and stuff in every country on the same day. It was just so emotional.
Has the world ever been united like that in anything else? Perhaps I can't really think of anything.
Maybe Lady Diana.
Yeah, that's actually, I was just going to say that the only thing.
Oh, you mean like with the death?
Well, yeah, I guess the death, because I can't really think of anything positive that has united the world in such a way. Like, I remember when Princess Diana died,
yes,
the whole world was also, I remember where I was. I remember what I had for lunch that day. I remember pretty much every detail of that day as well. And people lining up.
Example.
To sign condolence books. I did that here in Perth. I can't think of anything really maybe positive in my lifetime that sort of united the world. I guess maybe in other eras, the first moon landing, perhaps.
Yeah, it's usually, unfortunately, it's not very happy things that, like 9/11, 3,000 people died, and then everyone united and came together,
And that was in grief again.
Exactly. And I do remember I woke up at 5 a.m. when Princess Diana passed to watch her funeral.
Yep.
Like on the other side of, in America. So that is definitely, which is ironic considering how good of friends they were and how he wrote Privacy about, some of the lyrics about her. And
Jamon, as like a history teacher, can you think of any other instances where maybe the world was united, all feeling the same thing at the same time?
Oh, look, I think certainly at the conclusion of certain large conflicts, like at the end of the First and Second World War or the Berlin Wall coming down, and there's certainly big, watermark moments like that impacts the whole world. But I think you guys hit the nail on the head. It's usually when everybody comes together to support each other, it's usually after some kind of tragedy. And Michael Jackson passing away, okay, sure, yeah, he was a pop star and a singer, but he represented so much more than that to so many people. Like, we've talked many times on the show in the past about Michael breaking the color line for black artists all around the world. He represented so much more than just a singer. So when he passed away, it was like, literally the end of an era. He was the guy that broke the gates open for young black musicians all around the world to succeed internationally. So it was just indescribably huge, that moment for the world.
Yeah, it was. I had friends that had been at Carrollwood for a few weeks. Actually, I have a really good friend who got his very last autograph at 1 a.m. on June 25th. And the news kind of showed him. And I can't imagine being at the hospital, because here on one side, you have all these people just celebrating him and cheering him and singing his songs at the hospital. And then You know, you have the other group of people that can't even, I mean, they're just crying and they can't even imagine celebrating. And everybody wants to just celebrate his life. But it was so hard to watch everything unfolding.
It was really mixed for me because, like, I was super sad for a long time, but then it transitioned into, like, celebration for me because, I mean, Michael went through a really hard decade at the end of his life, and pretty much during that trial period, the world was against him, and I don't think he really recovered in terms of his reputation up until when he died. But then when he did pass away and the world embraced his music again and all of his concerts were on TV, and it was just like a giant celebration of his life, and then it became cool again to just love MJ. There were shirts, people wearing shirts everywhere, and it was such a crazy year because it was sad, but it was also really happy.
Yeah, and I was inside the Staples Center for the memorial, and it was weird also because there was about 60 of us or so that had been at Forest Lawn the day before trying to get, I don't know, we were just sitting there. And because you remember they had that like drawing to get tickets, and none of my friends and I who had been with Michael all these years got tickets. So actually Randy Jackson, Michael's brother, gave us all tickets. So there was like 60 or 70 of us that he just gave all these tickets to, and we all wore, you can see us, we're sitting on the floor. There's like a big front section, then there's an aisle, then second section, our whole group of us, we wore all white so you can see us because all you see is all white. And inside the Staples Center, you know, when other people would come up to talk, some people would start cheering for them, and it was like a concert, you know, because they just raffled these tickets off to it was a lottery. It's another thing, like I was with Madison Square Garden. I know there were so many people that would rather have been there and would have meant so much to them. And then you had people that were cheering and screaming for whoever would come up and talk. And our whole section was just crying. And it was a crazy day.
What was the moment like when you saw his children come on stage and when Paris spoke about him?
Oh my gosh, my heart. I don't think any of us expected her to speak. Just like I don't think anybody expected her to speak. And when she got on stage, my friends and I, who had been with Michael these years, we saw the children a lot. Michael actually introduced us to Blanket before he introduced the world to Blanket when we were in Vegas in September 2002. And so we had seen Blanket for all these years, and Paris and Prince, we used to buy Paris and Prince little gifts and stuff. And when she started talking with 18,000 people in the Staples Center, you could hear a pin drop. I know that's like a cliche thing to say, but everybody just listened. Everybody was just in shock and sad for her and really felt the sadness. BG holding the little black or white Michael Jackson doll. Oh my gosh, I still can't even look at that picture. Like I cannot see him standing there holding that and not tear up.
I think in some ways that moment people actually realized, not fans, but just civilians, I guess, lack of a better term.
No, I know what you mean.
I love when you say that.
That is a funny term, though.
You know, I guess at that moment they, for the first time, realized he was a father. He was a real dad.
He was a real person.
He was a real person that had a family of his own.
Yeah. 3 young kids that now don't have a dad. It's heartbreaking.
What was the feeling like reflecting on, like how aware were you that you were sitting in the very room that Michael had just spent weeks rehearsing in?
That was really strange as well, especially when This Is It came out, because, you know, This Is It, to me, I know a lot of people like don't like it, don't want to watch it. And it's not that I know that Michael would never have wanted that out there. It's strange watching him do Thriller and Threatened, because that was like 12 hours before he passed. That was the night before he passed. So, and that was in the Staples Center. So I don't know, even now to this day, anytime they say the Staples Center, like if I turn on TV and there's a basketball game, it's very strange to me. Yeah,
it's like ground zero, really, isn't it?
Yeah, for us, yes. So when I watch This Is It, if I'm watching it with anyone, I tell them like literally the next day he was gone. And here he is on stage and then just gone.
During the memorial, Michael's casket is there. Michael is in that room with you all. How could you comprehend what you were seeing in front of you after all the experiences that you've had?
Oh
and
my
this
gosh,
is the moment. Yeah. It's not a funeral, it's a memorial. It is something so ridiculously over the top in so many ways. But in your line of sight is that gleaming casket that contains the man that we all love so much.
I never thought about it like that. Maybe I did, but yeah, that's tough, man. That's a tough one. Like, I still know, I remember the song that was on when they walked the casket out. And I remember we didn't know if the casket was going to be there. We didn't know. We had no idea. So it was like when they had it on the screens and then they showed it coming out, it was like, this is real. This is real.
I don't think any of us was expecting that to happen, actually. I don't remember thinking, oh, yeah, they're going to have him there. This is a memorial. Well,
because I remember all of us sitting outside of the cemetery the day before. None of us wanted to go. The casket was going to be there. Like, we don't care to see Mariah Carey say, no offense to any of these people. We don't care to see Queen Latifah, or we don't care to see whoever else was there. When the casket was there, it was kind of a relief to us because we were like, okay, he's here. We can spend this last few moments or an hour or two, whatever. And it's not like you're spending it with him. It was comforting in a way to know that he was there, but then obviously not at all. Like, not at all. I think we all just needed that one last, but he wasn't there. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like at a funeral, like an open casket funeral or something. You feel like you just need that one last moment with that person, even though their spirit is gone. Do you know what I mean? Does this make sense?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's making total sense.
Okay, so that's kind of, it's kind of, for me, it was like that, where it was as horrible as the situation was and as terrible as it was, he was there. It's weird to think. I haven't really talked about all this before, so it's weird to think about it like that.
The news on the radio while the DJ played Billie Jean, saying something about your legacy, that you're the very last superstar we'll ever see, and we can tell the world don't ever be another one, that you will always stay here in our memory. So put on your dancing shoes, it's time to say goodbye. You know that final curtain calls for you, and when you get to heaven, you'll be dancing with the angels. So don't be sad now, don't be feeling blue, 'cause Billie Jean is waiting there for you. There's an emptiness without you here. It's hard to keep it all together, but we remember what we did that day. No, we'll never forget, it's in our hearts forever. May your spirit stay forevermore in Neverland, where a star will shine for everyone to see. So put on your dancing shoes, it's time to say goodbye. You know that final curtain calls for you. She's waiting there for you.
Hi, this is Michael Prince, studio engineer and producer with Michael Jackson, and you're listening to the MJCast.
Jenny, you just described to us earlier about being at Michael Jackson's memorial. And obviously, I mean, for me watching that on TV, it was devastating, certainly. But for you, I'd imagine it would have been a whole different level, because we haven't even got into the stories yet, but you even got the opportunity earlier in that decade, a few years before, to hang out with Michael Jackson at Neverland.
Correct.
Talk to us about how your relationship sort of shifted from being a fan that would see him sometimes to actually getting the chance to hang out with him.
So now, and my friends here like to say, like, well, she was friends with Michael Jackson. I would not consider it. Michael will tell you he loved all his fans. You know, we're always there. But I wouldn't consider myself a friend. It's not like he would call me on the phone. But, you know, the group of us, he would call some of my friends on the phone, and he did know us by name. And, you know, he did start to recognize us and feel comfortable talking to us. The first time I met him was September 2002. I was in Vegas. Michael Jackson was in Vegas for a long time. And I found this out from some friends that were there. So every week for the whole month, I would fly out to Vegas on a Tuesday. I would stay Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I would fly home Saturday, and I would work Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night. I had a very flexible job. I could just switch days off, and that was very convenient for me. Every week in September 2002, I'd fly out to Vegas, and there'd be about anywhere from, at one point, it was just me and my friend Joanna and I, when he would come out and he would stop and talk to us, and there'd be anywhere from like 2 of us to maybe 10 of us at a time. And I mean, my friends would fly from Spain and France and Germany during this time. So he got to see us every day. We would literally sit in the same spot every day for hours and hours and hours every day. And he would come in and out of the hotel, and he would stop and talk to us. And I have 3 pictures with him, and that's where the pictures were from. We're in Vegas. And he had done this many times before, just from my experience. I was in New York for the Sony demonstration, and a few other times just randomly when he was there, and he would always stop and talk to us. He knew that we'd been waiting all day, so I'm sure that he would stop and be like, okay, let me give these people what they want, is what I would probably think was going through his mind. Like, just stop and talk to him for a few minutes, you know. So in September, I'd fly out every week. A few times my friends would go shopping with him in Caesar's Palace. I don't know. It was the most random time, because he would just come out, and sometimes he would tell my friends, do you want to come with me? And they would go with him. Other times he would, you know, just sit there. This is the first time that I would see Martin Bashir, and we asked Michael who that was, and he told us, oh, he's just doing a documentary about me. He's a British journalist, quote, and right now I'm saying very light terms, journalist, but that was like the whole month of September. That's what I did. I worked 3 days, and I'd fly to Vegas for 4 days. So January of 2003, my job did some kind of like layoffs, but it wasn't going to be forever. I picked a 1.5 year layoff. I still got all my flight benefits and medical benefits, which was nice. I just I had to find another way of income. That happened in January 2003. I got in touch with my friend from France, Joanna, and I was like, I don't even know what happened. We kind of just like, hey, do you want to go to LA and see Michael? Sit outside, you know, not like go hang out with him. So I thought. So she flew over from France, met me in Cincinnati, flew to LA. Then we found out he was in Miami. So we flew to Miami. We found where he was staying, which was the most random thing ever. The first time we flew to Miami to see him, we had no idea where he was staying. We were just going in and out of every hotel on the Strip. One time she went in there and saw Mike, his bodyguard, and she came back out to the car. The odds of that happening are very slim. So that was exciting, because we knew where Michael was staying. And then we actually, during the first time we went to Miami, he was hanging out with Chris Tucker a lot. So one time we were sitting outside the entrance or exit where he came in and out, and the car pulled up and Chris Tucker yells out, "Michael, it's your lost children," talking about my friend and me. And we were like, oh my gosh, he did not just call us that, his lost children. Because Invincible, you know, was already out. But I forget what happened, but we actually left Miami and went back to Cincinnati for a few days. I don't remember why. And after about 4 days, we were like, what are we doing? We flew back to Miami because we knew where he was. This time he was staying at the Turnberry Hotel. So we went to the Turnberry Hotel. We were there in Miami this time for 2 weeks. We would go to the hotel every day. We would see him 2 or 3 times a day. Just me and her. That was it. He would come out, stop the car, talk to us, come back, talk to us. How you were saying about that girl's belly button ring. One time he looked at Joanne and he was like, "I like your tattoo. Can I touch it?" Like, he knows that tattoos don't feel like anything, right? So, yeah, Michael, I know what you're trying to do here. On her shoulder. So he was just like, he was like, "I like your tattoo." Like, it was so funny. She would like go inside and we would just start laughing like, oh my gosh, he's funny.
So in these times where you'd see Michael coming in and out of hotels and different places like that, did you ever get the opportunity to sort of like have little chats with him? And if so, what sort of things did you guys chat about?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm sure every time we have found something to talk about. I have no idea right now what it was. It could have been, I don't know, anything like, what are you doing today? Or the weather, or just anything. We didn't care. We just, whatever popped in our heads, we would say it just in order to talk to him. I couldn't even tell you right now. I couldn't even tell you.
So, Jenny, you mentioned before that you had seen Martin Bashir around and Michael had told you they were filming a documentary, and you mentioned, you know, Chris Tucker in Miami, and obviously we sort of know that there was things in Miami, like, you know, Gavin Arviso had come down there with Chris. Okay, let's skip forward a touch. The documentary is finished and it airs on TV.
Yes.
There was a bit of fallout from that. So what happened?
The documentary was airing in London on a Thursday night, and we were in America. We knew it was airing, but we didn't see it, obviously. So Friday morning, the morning after it aired, we hadn't heard anything about it. You know, this was before like smartphones, so we didn't have all this online accessibility that we do now. So we're just sitting outside the hotel expecting it to be the normal, and it's weird to say the normal talk with Michael Jackson, but really that's what we were expecting. And he came up and he rolls the window down and he is crying. And I mean, like, I'm seeing tears coming from his eyes. And Joanne and I are like in shock. We're like, what? Like, what is going on? And he said, "They're saying that I do these things again. They're saying I do these terrible things to kids. You know me, I would never do that. I cannot believe this is happening again." And we're just standing there in shock, like, Michael, I'm sure it's not that bad. Like, in my head, I'm going, what was in this documentary? We're like, no, well, of course. He's like, just, you know, tell everyone that I'm not like this, that I would never do that. And we're like, yes, of course. I mean, there was really no way to tell everybody. Again, the internet wasn't like it was, but we were like, we know that you would never do something like that. I'm sure it'll be okay. We were literally trying to comfort Michael Jackson. So that was a crazy moment. And so they went into the hotel. And about 5 minutes later, Chris, who was his security, he was driving the SUV, came back out to my friend and I and said, "Hey, Michael loves that you guys are here. He loves talking to you, but paparazzi and the media is going to be trying to find where he's at. So we really don't want you to be standing in front of the hotel every day," which makes sense because the hotel staff knew why we were there. And if they saw us standing there, they would have found out and they would have seen him in and out. So we were like, okay. Chris goes, "But Michael wants to invite you guys to Neverland sometime soon." And we were like, okay. And that was literally it. So we didn't like say when or what, you know, it was the weird thing. So, but he said that. And so we were like, we totally understand. We left the hotel. We were staying with my friend and we watched the documentary that night. And I knew exactly, as soon as they showed him holding hands with Gavin, in my head, in my friend's head, we knew we were like, it was kind of like why would you do that because of what everyone else thinks? Even though he didn't care. I mean, he was going to do it. He didn't mean anything by it. We knew that. I knew what he meant by it, but I knew the backlash was going to come from that. you know? Like, I knew the headlines were going to be Michael Jackson holds hands with young boy in documentary, and I knew that that's what was going to happen. I didn't care that he was doing it because, you know, we all know what kind of person Michael is. But again, the world is a very judgmental place. We saw the documentary and then we were like, oh, here we go again. 93 all over again. Like we were talking about it. We had a bad feeling about it. And then hearing Bashir in the documentary, he was so friendly and, you know, to Michael. And then the voiceover and the commentary was so twisted. It was just, I don't know if you remember watching it live, but it was just a terrible thing to watch and to listen to Bashir describing Michael and how he, I don't know, he really just treated Michael very badly in the documentary.
I remember watching it with my family live, and it went from, because we had heard, I don't think it aired in Australia at the same time as it did around the world. So we'd already heard that it was really bad. And so I sat down with my family to watch it and I was like, guys, this is going to get really weird and bad by the end of it. Like it did. I remember my parents like, that's not that bad. It's cool. He's dancing. He's talking about his music. And then by the end, we were all just like, what the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It was, yeah. And just know that Michael thought it was just as bad from everyone's reaction, you know? I mean, because once again, he's trusting this guy to follow him around for months, to be in his personal life, to share his, you know, his life with him. And then once again, he's backstabbed or, you know, whatever. So it just, I mean, it sucks because I'm sure Michael wanted the world to see the kind of person that he really is. And then it got twisted, and I wish he never would have done it. Because then none of, you know, he never would have done it. None of that would have happened. It just wouldn't have happened. But it happened. It aired. We watched it.
You got invited to Neverland.
We flew back to LA. And about 10 days to 2 weeks afterwards, by this time, 2 other of my friends from France were here. So there was 4 of us all together. And I got a call, a text. I don't remember what happened, but I got a text or a call from one of my friends. And he goes, Michael's back at Neverland. Because he was there. He was outside of the Neverland gates. He goes, Michael's back at Neverland. Within 5 minutes, the 4 of us had our bags packed. We were in the car, and we were driving to Neverland because we knew he was back there. So about 2.5 hours later, we get to Neverland. We're just sitting outside the gates. So there was the 4 of us, and there was about 3 to 4 other people. I knew one of them, and then the other 2 I didn't know yet. I do now, obviously. So we're all just kind of sitting out there, not knowing anything's going to happen. You never knew with that. You could sit in front of the gates of Neverland for days and see nothing, hear nothing, you know, that's just how it was. And you'd be scared to like go into town 5 minutes to use the restroom because you'd be afraid something would happen. I mean, it was crazy. All of a sudden, security comes out to us and they're like, okay, you guys got to go. Michael's coming out. He has to go to a business meeting. You got to leave. And we were like, yeah, okay. So you're telling us Michael's coming out and you're telling us we have to leave? That's funny. So we drive down his road. Gory Mountain Road was about 5 miles long. So we drove to the end of the road. Then you have to cross over a really busy, pretty much like a highway. And then it's this little town. So we just cross the highway and we park our cars on the street. We turn our cars around and we park them facing Gory Mountain Road. That way we could see when his car was coming out. So we have 2 cars. And so we're waiting maybe about 5 minutes. And here comes this stretch Escalade or Navigator limousine. Of course, that's Michael. So we all jump out of the cars, leave the doors wide open. We didn't care about anything. Run across the highway. We didn't care about getting hit by a car. We just took off. And the limo stops at the end of the street and the door opens. Michael was like, come in, because we wouldn't just jump in the limo. I mean, we were fans that would run after his car and stuff, but we weren't just going to jump in. We respected him, of course. So we get in the limo. And we're just sitting in the limo. It was Michael and all my friends and me and Gavin and Gavin's brother and sister and Frank Cassio and his friend and a few other people. And we're just talking for a few minutes. And then I don't even remember what we were talking about. And then the security comes back around and he goes, okay, you guys got to go. We have to go. And Michael was like, no, they're coming with us. And we looked at him and we were like, don't you have a business meeting? And he was like, no, we're going to Toys R Us. And we all looked at the security like, you are a liar. And we all just started laughing. And Michael started laughing because he knew at that time, then he realized, oh, he told you guys we were going business meeting. No, we're going Toys R Us. So it was like, it was funny, but totally called him out on lying to us, the security. We were like, God, you're a liar.
Jenny, at this time, you're in the limo. You mentioned who you're in the limo with. But at the time, did you realize Gavin was the kid from the Martin Bashir documentary?
I think probably, yeah, because it might have taken me a minute. And I'm pretty sure Gavin maybe mentioned it. Okay, I'm not pretty sure. I can't say I guarantee that. But I feel like somebody mentioned, oh, yeah, we were the ones in the documentary or something. I don't know. I feel like that happened. But I did recognize him kind of fairly quickly. Or even they probably introduced themselves to us, you know. So either way, yes. I recognized and I knew fairly quickly that it was him.
What was it like seeing Michael actually interact with Gavin? What was it a bit awkward? What was it like?
So I wouldn't really say it was awkward. Looking back on it, it really makes me mad because we were on the limo. It's about a 30-minute drive to the Toys R Us that was in Santa Maria. And Michael's just sitting there, just listening to the music. Gavin is laying on him. Gavin is laying on Michael. He's saying, Michael saved my life. If it wasn't for Michael, I would be dead. And Michael helped my family with a house and a car and blah, blah, blah. Like, Michael didn't have his arm around him. Michael wasn't hugging on him. It was Gavin that was like laying his head on Michael's shoulder. And it almost seemed like Michael, in my opinion, that Michael was a little bit annoyed with Gavin by this point. I didn't tell you the date on this. Let's talk about the date. So Michael was supposedly abusing Gavin from January 2003 to March 12th of 2003. I was there with my friends March 9th and 10th, 2003. So the last few days that Gavin was being, quote, abused. No way. There's no way. This is when they were being supposedly held hostage. This is when they were going to be sent off to a different country in a hot air balloon. The stories that were coming out after this were insane. This was not a boy that was being abused. I'm sorry. Like, I have friends that are abuse victims. This is not, no. So Michael almost seemed annoyed with him. Like I said, it was Gavin hanging on Michael, not the other way around. And Michael wasn't even like, yeah, you know, I helped save him and his family's awesome. No, Michael didn't even talk about like that. It was Gavin, his brother and sister, were talking all about how great Michael was. You know, but at the time, we didn't know anything was going to happen from this. So we were like, well, yeah, that's what Michael does. He helps people, you know? And so we get to Toys R Us and we're all having a great time in Toys R Us. They close the store down. We're in there for probably 2 to 3 hours. Everybody was having a great time. No awkward, weird vibes. I did not get one like, oh, that's kind of weird. I did not feel that once. I did not think that once. Nothing. Not one thing. 50 Cent was coming out on the radio the very beginning of 2003. And the song In the Club was very popular. And by very popular, I mean, they probably played it every other song, every day, all day long on the radio. So from January, February, March, I probably heard the song like a billion times. So I was over it. So we're in Toys R Us. And out of nowhere, Michael starts singing, "Go Shorty, it's your birthday." And I look at him and I say, "Michael, can you please stop singing that song?" He goes, "You don't like 50 Cent?" And I said, "Oh, I like 50 Cent." I said, "They've played that song out so much in the past few months. I'm so sick of that song." And he just started laughing. And my friend and I, who had heard it with me all these times, we were both like laughing. And to this day, her and I my birthday was just 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she'll send me like, "Go Shorty, it's your birthday." And, you know, it's like an inside thing. But to this day, when I hear that song, I just am just like, Jenny, you told Michael Jackson to stop singing. You told him to stop singing. So it was really funny, but I did. I was like, please stop. He's never been told that before in his life, maybe, but.
So you've been shopping with Michael and friends in Toys R Us. Just to remind listeners, by the way, remember they left their cars, doors open. They just jumped into limo with Michael. Their cars, all their stuff is like not under supervision. Car doors open. You know, just to remind people, I think that's hilarious. Anyway, do you get back dropped off at your cars, or like did you get a lift back into town, or how do you get to Neverland?
We had a hotel that night in Solvang, which is about 5 minutes away from his house. So we had a hotel already booked. Well, my friend Ahmad, who was the one who that day said, hey, Michael's back in Neverland. We were in the limo on the way back, and he asked Michael, can we stay at Neverland? And I remember my friend and I going, oh, but no, it's okay. We have a hotel. And Michael was just like, sure. Like, didn't even think about it. Didn't even question it. Just like, sure. So we were like, at that point, I remember thinking, oh, my God, in my head, like, we're going to sleep in Neverland. You know, I mean, this is a place that you've heard about since the 80s, you know, and you've seen it on the Oprah interview. You've seen it on all these interviews. And now you're like, not just going to go there, you're sleeping there. The limo stopped at the end of the street where we had our car. If there is one place in America that I would feel safe leaving my cars with every personal belonging that I had with me at the time in the car with all the doors open, it would be at the end of his street. It was such a little, cute, quiet town. Thank God everything was still there. We got back into the car and we just followed the limo 5 miles down to his house, and we just parked in the front of his house, got out of the car and walked inside. It was kind of like just taking it all in, like driving through we've all seen them, the big Neverland arch. I mean, just this whole day/night was the most surreal experience ever, you know? So just driving in and not believing that it's actually happening. Still to this day, it's crazy. Like, I don't talk to people about this. So when I do, it's very odd that this was me that did this and experienced all this, because it's been so long since it happened. But then I told myself, Jenny, try and remember as much as you can, because you'll never have this again, basically. So when we got out of the car and when we walked in his house, somebody I was with made the comment like, oh, Michael, it's such a beautiful foyer entranceway. And he literally said, oh, you've never been here? Like, really? No.
Michael.
No. Let me think. Let me just try and remember. No, Michael.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I could be forgetting sometime. No, Michael, we have not been here. I was just like, he was so excited almost, like, oh, you've never been here? I mean, no, but I'll come back if you want me to. You know, that's what I should say. He then proceeded to give us a tour of his entire house, every room, his memorabilia room, which was a closet, but he kept a lot of memorabilia. He had a 2-story bedroom. And I remember vividly walking into the first floor of his bedroom and then walking up the stairs to where his bed was. I remember that vividly. I remember sitting on his bed. I mean, I just remember walking behind him up the stairs to his bed. I remember that. And I'm just like, what is my life right now? Like, Jenny, little Jenny from Ohio. And now you're in Neverland with Michael Jackson. What?
Sort of puts, into perspective, everyone's like, oh, you always used to only have boys visit Neverland.
Right.
Because here you are.
I was a 20-year-old girl or a 19-year-old girl. People think they're funny because they'll say to me, oh, like that's what they'll say. Oh, you're a girl? And how old were you? They want me to say I was like 10 years old. No, I was an adult. I did this on my own.
And you were with Joanna and friends.
Oh, there was 7 or 8 of friends. And then, like I said before, Gavin and then Frank, and it was a whole group of people. Now, during the tour, also a silly string fight broke out between Gavin and his brother and sister, and then us. We were having a silly string fight inside Michael's house. I mean, everybody was literally having a great time, which is crazy because if I was being held hostage in that situation, I might be okay with it because it seemed like it was a very fun hostage situation that I really wouldn't mind, Yeah.
Did you want to take us on like a sort of a brief tour of the house that Michael toured you on? What was it like? Were there rooms that you were sort of really amazed by, that Michael told stories about as he was showing you around?
He didn't really tell stories. He just kind of took us through and he was like, this is the library. And, he didn't like give a full detailed tour, but he just kind of walked us around. And I mean, it was a gorgeous house. I don't know if you've seen, I actually the other day was looking up YouTube videos now that, there's nothing left in it, which is really heartbreaking, but it's a beautiful house, a beautiful property. So, and it was at nighttime, so we couldn't really see outside. He just took us through. I mean, I do remember going into his closet and seeing the shoes that he said he wore in the Smooth Criminal video. He had lots of memorabilia from like Elizabeth Taylor and Shirley Temple. His bedroom, there was just stuff everywhere. Like, I don't remember if he told any more stories about it. I don't think so. I think it was kind of a walkthrough thing. But after the tour, Michael said he had to go work on music. So he stood up and we all took turns giving him a hug and saying bye. And after we did, we go back to the end of the line and we'd come up and say bye again. And finally he was like, I see what you all are doing here, because we're going to keep going and going. We did finally say goodbye and we sat down on his dining room table. I remember it was Mexican night. So we had Mexican food. Still, Gavin, his brother and sister, we were all together still, just laughing, having fun. After dinner, we went to the amusement park. We went on every single ride, which was amazing. Went to the arcade. And while we were in the arcade, we looked up, because Michael wasn't in there with us. He said he was going to work on music. And all of a sudden, we looked up, and Michael just comes strolling in the arcade. And we all just kind of like nonchalantly were like, hey, Michael, and just kept doing whatever we were doing. At one point, we started like a Soul Train line. And everybody was taking turns dancing, and Michael did not want to. He was so shy. We were like, come on, Michael. He was like, no, I don't want to. I don't remember what he said, but everyone else danced. He did not. He would not dance. The most vivid memory I have about the arcade was at one point I was standing in front of the jukebox, just like going through the songs, and Eminem was playing. Michael was a very big fan of Eminem at the time. And all of a sudden, I felt something on my leg, and I looked down, and Michael was squatted down and holding on to my leg with his ear right up on the speakers. And the speakers were so loud. I don't know how he didn't have hearing loss. Maybe he did. I don't know. But I just remember looking down, and he was keeping his balance by holding on to my leg. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Again, I think the word of the day is surreal, because that's pretty much everything I talk about. I could say that word in every sentence. So finally, he did say goodnight to us and went back to the house. And then we went to the theater, which we still at this point didn't know where we'd be sleeping. After we got into the theater, Frank Cassio drove me to the car so I could get our things. So I grabbed a few bags for me and my friends, got our stuff, and went back to the theater. There was a movie on, but eventually we went to sleep. I think this is something that, I don't know if we talked about this when we first spoke, because I don't know if this came out afterwards. So the theater was 2 floors, at least 2 floors, and they had bedrooms in the theaters with big windows for, disabled children who could not sit up on their own. So we were going to sleep upstairs in a bedroom. 2 people slept in the bed, and then 2 people slept on the floor on each side. And we were like, okay, so what has come out in the past 2 months maybe is that James Safechuck said that the glass on the windows on the top floor were only one-sided. So people on the top floor could see down into the theater and like watch the movie, but you could not see up into the room from the bottom floor. That is a lie. I remember seeing where we were going to sleep, and there have been hundreds of people that have been in that theater that have come out and said that's a lie. That glass was not one way. So yeah, we just ended up falling asleep in the theater. Gavin and his brother and sister were there with us the entire time until it was time to go to bed. I do not know where they slept that night. I do not know where Michael slept. I don't know where anyone else slept but my friends and me.
Can I ask about, well, God, I'd want to ask about every room that you saw or things like that, but how about the grounds? How about the gardens and the amusement park?
Yeah.
Can you just tell us a little bit about the experience and what it was like to be walking amongst those trees, those gardens, those rides?
It was at night, so we couldn't really see much of the grounds, but the amusement park was just like any amusement park with the lights all lit up. There was music blasting through the whole amusement park. He always had music throughout the entire grounds on Neverland. It was just amazing to be there. Now, the next day we did see some of the grounds. And like I said, I had been back in many times after that. So I saw it during the day many times. And it was beautiful. Everything was just so upkept, if that's the word I'm trying to, just so clean and so beautiful. You could just tell that he was very proud of Neverland, and he wanted to keep it beautiful. And it really was. Once you went under the Neverland Arch, you drove about a minute or two before you got to the main house. And it was just beautiful. There were ponds everywhere and statues and trees. And it was just gorgeous.
That's nice. I wish I could have got the chance to go there. Maybe I still will one day. Who knows?
I mean, it still looks, like I said, they have YouTube videos from like last year. It still looks really, they've definitely kept the grounds up, but it's very strange to see that the amusement park is gone. The house is empty. So that's very strange. So the next morning we slept in the theater. We just woke up and security, Chris came and got us and to the golf cart or the car to go to the house. And Michael was there and Michael did say hi to us. Then the next morning as we were leaving the theater to go eat breakfast. So he did say hi and we did thank him tremendously for letting us stay overnight. Because, I mean, what other celebrity, let alone the most famous person on the planet, will let people stay on their property, We ate breakfast and we went to the zoo to see the animals. Gavin and his family were there as well still. And so this was now March 10th, 2003. Again, no weird vibes. No nothing. No weird vibes.
Any sign of Gavin's mum at all?
No.
Okay.
No, I did not see them. I don't know if she was there, but I didn't not see her. And then that day when we were leaving, it was probably around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And we got into our car and drove to the outside of the gates. And I remember we parked the car and got out of the car just to make sure we had everything and, just to get situated before we drove away. And I remember Gavin and his brother and sister came to the gates and we went up to them and they were basically begging us to come back and stay longer. They were like, we'll ask if you can stay, we want you guys to still stay. I mean, looking back on that, it really pisses me off, but we were already outside of the gates and we were ready to go. Plus it wasn't up to them if we stayed or not. So we just said goodbye and that was it. Thought that was going to be the last I heard from them or about them. So fast forward to November 2003,
Yeah, it certainly wasn't the last you would have heard of them because then obviously the whole trial period started with Michael's arrest. Now I'm guessing, you told us earlier that you were there during Vindication Day, but even during the trial and that period, were you there?
So when it came out, when he was arrested, and then once we found out who the boy was that was accusing him, as soon as I found out, immediately I knew. I was pissed. And especially after being there and seeing what I saw, Gavin all over Michael, I knew it was a lie. So I got in touch with Brian Oxman, who was the Jackson family lawyer, if that's what he was. I'm not sure. He set me up on an interview. So I did a nationally televised interview on the early show on CBS a few days later. And so I flew out to LA and spoke to a PI. His name was Eric Mason. He was on the case and he told me he would put me on the witness list. Well, I just found out a few months ago after speaking to Scott Ross, who was actually working for, the defense. Eric Mason didn't put my friends or me on the witness list, but Scott Ross did hear of the silly string fight and Toys R Us and everything. But he said Eric never gave him my information. And Scott told me, we could have used you. Like, dang it, But so I never went to the trial because I wasn't sure if I was going to testify. And so basically I didn't, in case I testified, I didn't go. But I did finally decide once the trial was over that I was going to go out there. And I ended up going the day before the verdict came in. So, and when the details of what the Arvisos were saying started coming out, it was just unbelievable, saying he was being abused until the 12th. Well, we were there March 9th and 10th. The kids were just excited to be there as we were. Having fun, laughing, just having a great time. No signs of anything going on. And I think if I remember, his brother Star or his sister said that they saw it or walked in on it happening.
Yeah, they did say that.
I just, again, like I said, at this point when we were there, they were supposedly being held hostage. I mean, it was just so, and Michael wanted them to disappear in a hot air balloon. Really? What?
Crazy.
Crazy. Who makes this stuff up? So,
Jenny, back at Neverland, were there places that you were told, don't go to there or anywhere sort of off limits that you remember?
Not that I can remember.
You and your friends yourselves were adults. Were there other adults around the ranch? Were there staff?
Definitely when I went back in the other times with a bunch of us fans that were sitting out, there was staff there. There was always people at the front gate, always. But yeah, I mean, there was staff that would just be walking around or tending to the bushes or whatever.
And this was the first time you went to Neverland, and so but you did return other times. Were they similar where you got to hang out with Michael, or were they? No.
So what would happen all the other times? That was the only time I ever hung out with Michael inside Neverland and for a longer period of time than just like talking to him, outside the hotel or in a big group of people. So all the other times, a lot of it would be just random times. Like, for example, I think and I could be completely wrong, his 45th birthday, the fans threw him a party at the Orpheum Theater in LA. And afterwards, we all drove back to Neverland. So there was probably 50 of us outside the gates of Neverland just sitting there, not knowing if anything was going to happen. And all of a sudden, Violet, who was the security guard, who I'm sure none of us liked her. She was really mean, but I can't imagine having that job. But she would just be like, all right, Michael said you guys can all come inside Neverland. So if you could all just get in your cars. And when I tell you that within like 10 seconds, 60 people were in their cars, hands on the wheel, ready to go in. I'm not joking. Like it was like a mad dash to get in the car. And then we just would drive in, and you did have to sign a paper. You weren't allowed to take pictures inside. And it's funny now because, it's 2019 now. So I've posted stuff on Twitter and people are like, well, I don't believe you unless you have pictures in Neverland. I'm like, number one, you could not take pictures in Neverland. Number two, we had the wind-up disposable cameras back then. I mean, all my pictures that I have with Michael were taken on those disposable cameras. I went to like Walgreens. I got them developed in an hour, probably for like $30. Like we did not have these. And people just don't understand that 18 years ago or 17 years ago, we didn't have smartphones.
And you couldn't take any sneaky pics with those cameras because when you click and then to wind it, so loud.
Yeah, no sneaking around there. So
no, and it's the size of like a Walkman.
Right. And so, I tell people now, I'm like, you don't have to believe me. I don't care if you believe me or not. I mean, this is what happened to me. It's my story. People really, I don't believe you if you don't have pictures. Okay. I don't know what to tell you. It was not like it is today. So, gosh.
Wow. So you've pretty much lived like the fan dream, really. You've got to speak to Michael on many occasions, even if if it was just about the weather or whatever.
Right.
I'm glad you got past the point of just crying in his face.
Oh my gosh, you and me both.
Neverland, wow. Like the dream of mine growing up was to step foot in the place, and you got to sleep there in the theater, which is incredible. Wow. Waking up the next morning, and I remember I slept on the floor, and I remember just waking up like, I am in the theater inside Michael Jackson's Neverland. Like, what? And it was funny because when we first got there that night on March 9th, I asked if I could call my mom. And so I sat down at in the kitchen. He had like a bar with stools he could sit at. And I called my mom and I was like, Mom, you are never going to guess where I am. And she was like, where are you? And I told her. So it's like those little things that are funny. When I just remember in the limo, I asked Michael if I called my sister on the way to Toys R Us, and I asked him if he would say hi to her. So I gave him my phone, and he was talking to my sister on the phone. Just little things like that. Did she freak out? I mean, yeah, probably. she couldn't, I mean. That's not a call you'd expect to get. Right. And I actually got her to meet him once, and she had always said, she's about 2 years younger than me. And she had always said, I like Michael, I like his music, whatever. But then in Vegas for the Radio Music Awards, we were at the hotel, and there was about 10 of us out there, and he came back, and I was like, Michael, this is my sister. And she hugged him, and it was like,
oh my God, Michael, I love you so much. And I was standing there and I was like, Stacy, like, is this my sister? He just had this aura, like and it's a thing. It's a true thing. His aura, it was a real thing. And she got in it, man, and she never got out. And she went to New York once with me. She was at the Staples Center with me, you know,
Talking about that, Jenny, how should Michael be remembered?
It's really unfortunate that everything we've been dealing with the first few months of this year is happening now. Because, you know, when Michael passed, there are so many people that have been fans starting June 25th, 2009. And, you know, at the time I was engaged and he had 3 stepdaughters and they never wanted to listen to Michael. And then Michael passed, and that is all they wanted to listen to. They know every word. They'll tell me to this day, they'll be like, there was a Michael song played in class and I know all the words. And, you know, and so it made a whole new fan base. You know, it took forever to get over that first allegations. So to have this come out, you know, the last 9 years have been great. People have been loving his music and all the Cirque du Soleil shows and everything. And then to have this come out this year and to try and tarnish that, first of all, that's never going to happen. His legacy will continue to inspire others. This was just a little blip, little glitch in the whole thing. I mean, it wasn't little, but I just hope people remember him for the person that he was, the charitable efforts he did, the humanitarian he was, just all the ways that he wanted to help the planet. I mean, if you watch This Is It, the very end of it, where he's talking about healing the planet or whatever, people don't talk like that these days. Celebrities don't talk about that. They don't talk about that on stage. And that's what his songs are about. And see, I'm talking about his song second. I mean, I want people to really know what kind of person he was. So I hope that, you know, that lives on. Of course, his songs will always live on. And if somebody just wants to be a fan of his, you know what? Good. Keep it going. Teach your kids that. Teach your grandkids. So that's what I hope for. He was one of a kind. And I am so thankful. And I'm sure we are all so grateful that we were alive when he was alive and when he was walking this earth, because think of the billions of people that have been born since 2009. They weren't even alive when he was alive. We were very fortunate to see him and to spend time on this earth with him. This world was a better place 10 years ago.
There's a place in your heart, and I know that it is love. And this place could be much brighter than tomorrow. And if you really try, you'll find there's no need to cry. In this place, you'll feel there's no hurt or sorrow. There are ways to get there if you get enough of the living. Make a little space, make a better place. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. If you want to know why, there's a love that cannot lie. Love is strong, it only cares of joyful giving. If you try, we shall see. In this bliss we cannot feel fear or dread. Stop existing and start living. Then it feels that our praise love's enough for us growing to make a better world, make a better world. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. could fly, oh so high, let our spirits never die. And in my heart, I feel you are all my brothers. Create a world with no fear, together we cry happy tears. See the nations turn their swords into plowshares. We can really out there, if you care enough for the living, make a little space, make a better place. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. 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 You and for
Hi, this is Diana Walzak, sculptor of the Michael Jackson History Statue, and you're listening to the MJCast.
Is there any of your Michael fan friends that you'd want to give a shout out to?
I mean, I feel like I would be forgetting some, but there's just, because I could pretty much go, I feel like I could go to almost any country and know somebody there just through Michael Jackson, which is amazing. I have so many friends that I met through him that I would never, ever have crossed paths with, like ever, you know? So Michael brought so many of us together, and we were able to share a lot of experiences together that people didn't get to experience. So it was awesome, that the friendships I have now that I did not have before all this happened.
Well, you've mentioned a few. I know that you're friends with like Sean with his amazing pet squirrel.
Yeah. Actually, I think I might be going to Vegas at the end of July to see Janet in concert with him, actually.
Very cool.
Yeah, we talked about
Very
it,
cool.
so we'll see. But yeah, he's a really good friend of mine that I've met through Michael.
Any Australian people that you remember?
Any Australian people? You two. You two are now my friends. But
Here we are.
My friend Jess. I remember she flew from Australia to New York in 2002. 22-hour travel just to come over to New York to try and meet Michael. And she actually did end up getting an autograph from him. So yes, I do know a girl from Australia.
Worth it.
Yes, totally.
It. Well, Jenny, this has been incredible, just trying to put myself in your shoes in these amazing situations.
I try to put myself in my own shoes when I tell these stories, because again, it just seems like a dream. So
I've loved hearing your stories, Jenny, and I'm sure many of our listeners have as well. If people want to connect with you online, do you have like a Twitter handle or Instagram that you might be able to share?
Yeah, so I think it's the same or no, it's not. My Twitter is, let me just make sure, because I changed it when all this started happening at the beginning of the year. I changed my Twitter. So it is Jenny W526 for Twitter. So JENNYW526 is my Twitter handle. And then on Instagram, it's MJGen. So MJJEN and the number 2000. That's literally been my screen name for everything since like 1998. So it's a bit outdated, but whatever.
Oh, that's okay. That's awesome. And I've really loved speaking to you, and I hope many of our listeners get a chance to drop you a line as well online. I don't know if they might have any more specific questions for you or anything like that, or just want to geek out about MJ. But I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm insanely jealous right now of all the things that you got to do with Michael and going to Neverland. Absolutely amazing. But also I want to thank you because, as we said at the start of the show, it is always a very difficult time of the year to get through as Michael Jackson fans. But one thing that helps, I think, is hearing reflections on Michael from other fans around the world, just like you. So thank you very much, Jenny.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad that I was able to come on and tell my stories, and just hopefully it does help people. Again, if anyone's listening, there are millions of us that feel the same way around this time of year. And if you feel better blaring his music and singing out loud, do it. If it makes you feel sad, don't do it. It's totally up to you how you deal with it. But, in the words of Michael Jackson, you are not alone.
There we go. Jenny Winings, thank you very much. This has been a pleasure. And I guess, as we would say, just Michael on.
Thank you, guys.
There we go. That was interesting.
Wow. I don't know. I just remember vividly as a teenager having seen pictures of Neverland, just wishing upon a star, just wishing that one day I could be that kid hanging out with Michael Jackson at Neverland.
Yeah, I remember watching it in even just living with Michael Jackson. I know it was a terrible documentary, but it's just... it just seemed like such a magical, ethereal kind of place. I would have loved the chance to visit it. It would have been incredible. It was like, some people talk about it as like the physical embodiment of Michael put all of his soul into a physical place, like an extension of him.
I think that's why it means so much to us, because he didn't really do that with anything else.
No, he put everything into it. He even said he would never sell it.
And just hearing about Madison Square Garden, that was awesome.
So cool. She has got to be the only one of the only people I've ever heard of, probably the only person that's gone to both shows. There can't be too many people, aside from the crew and the people working on the show, that would have been to both. It's pretty outstanding because it was a very expensive show to go to.
Yes, she told us. Yeah. Wow.
What experiences? I mean, there must be so many fans out there that would kill to have the experiences she had.
And hopefully they're grateful that they got to at least hear them when she shared them.
Yeah. It's a tough time of year, so I'm hoping as well that hearing some of those stories have brought some comfort to some of our listeners.
Absolutely.
I know it helps me a lot.
Yeah, me too. Just, I was... When she was talking about when she heard the news and the memorial, I was sitting here pretty emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brings it all back, hey?
It does.
We're going to cross now to a segment. We usually do this every year. We go back and we listen to little snippets of all of our previous guests since the last year talking about how they think Michael should be remembered. I want to give a big shout out to Brad Skistemus, who put this segment together for us. I'm very appreciative of that, Brad. Thank you so much. I have very little time this weekend to put the show together, so it's been a big help. And I hope you guys all enjoy this segment, Reflections on How Michael Should Be Remembered. And Judith Hill, I've got a question that we always ask our guests. This is one of our last questions on Michael. This is a question we ask all of our guests that knew or worked with him. How do you think Michael Jackson should be remembered?
I think he should be remembered as a healer, as someone who healed people with his music. I think that he brought magic into the world, and for all ages. I mean, kids light up when they hear his name. Everybody around the world. I think he should be remembered for that, for his love for the world, for all people, and his dedication to giving that to people.
Dick, just as we let you go, there is one question we always ask of our special guests, and we compile the answers of these together in our end of year special. I'd love to know your thoughts around how do you think Michael Jackson should be remembered?
He was a misunderstood performer who was probably the most talented performer that I can imagine ever. He was so unique not only as a performer, but as an individual. He was so, I called him a butterfly. You know, he was like no other person I ever met, by the way. Very sensitive, caring about the planet, the future generation. This whole thing and this whole exaggeration and mix-up about him and children is so untrue, because he was a child and he never really stopped being a child, and he understood children, and he was concerned with where this planet was heading. I was privileged, I must tell you, to have met him and worked with him and spent time with him. He was one of the people that left this planet way too soon, and the life of Michael Jackson, of course, can never be replaced. There'll never be anybody like this individual.
So, John, there's a question we really like to ask all of our guests, all of our special guests, you being especially special. And that question is, how should Michael be remembered?
I think it's clearly on the list of small handful of some of the greatest performers that have ever lived, along with having a high measure of humanitarianism and contributing to humanity in so many ways. I think that's what's most important when it comes to remembering him, because there's been so much negative and dark press surrounding things that just feel so unfair from my point of view, I'll just say. Most of the time by people that didn't know him. You've had all kinds of people that have made claims and turned around and said they were paid off and all of these kinds of things. These days, we can hear so much about so many different people. It's unbelievable. But what you can't manufacture is the success and the connection that he's demonstrated all over the earth, and his contributions, which outdistance pretty much any entertainer that's ever lived.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things I think matter. I mean, to those who really knew him more intimately, there's just lots of other things that we'd like to see people remember. But that isn't what the public got to see. And I think what he gave the public was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. And it's deserving of respect. I'm hoping that at some point, either this estate or a future estate will make sure that those things are viewed in the proper light.
Harrison Funk, how do you think that Michael Jackson should be remembered?
I've said it many times. I think that Michael needs to be remembered as the great entertainer, the great philanthropist, the great humanitarian that he was. He left us a legacy of kindness and compassion and healing. I go back to Heal the World as a signature piece, but that's only one little bit of Michael. Michael was put here on earth as the man who could change humanity for the better, and his candle was snuffed out too early. So I would hope that people will remember him for the great music, for the humanitarian work he's done, for all the children and all the adults who can attribute healing to Michael and to his wonderful music and to his beautiful personality.
Bill Whitfield, how do you think Michael Jackson should be remembered?
Michael Jackson, I feel he should be remembered just for what he tried to do. He felt his music was the antidote to evil, the negativeness. You listen to his music, he felt his music was the cure, and he's often said he's made music based off, the thoughts and the struggles of children. I listen to his music more so now and even listen to words. So I think he should be remembered just for what he tried to achieve with his music. And that was kind of, no matter where you are, what you're doing, out, hanging out with your buddies, friends, Michael Jackson's song comes on, everybody is connected at that very moment. Everybody in that club, in that arena, in that place, in that house, in that party is all connected right now because we are all listening to some music that none of us in here have to say, who the hell is that? We don't have to because we all know. So right now, this very moment, we are all connected because we hear it. And that's what he felt his music would do, is to bring people together and just make it better. I think I would like to see people remember him as that, what he tried to do with his music. And in some ways, I think he has.
Brad Buxer, how should Michael be remembered?
As the greatest artist of all time and giving the most amazing gift to the world that any performer has ever given. He's the greatest, in my opinion, and probably everyone else's too, the greatest performer that's ever existed. And that's how he should be remembered. What he gave to the world with his talent, which God gave to him, he was just born with it. But that talent, I don't believe will ever be equaled, and I've never seen anything close to it. And I still, just when I see a video of him dancing, or when I just see, and believe me, I'm not one of these people who, not starstruck. I'm not even into things that, some people are so into the latest artists. I don't care about any of that. I just know great art, and he's the greatest artist of all time ever. Point blank, that's it, nothing even close to it. And that's how he should be remembered. He's Einstein, he's Da Vinci, he's Newton, he's the greatest that's ever existed at what he does. That's how he should be remembered.
Tarrell Jackson, how do you think Michael should be remembered?
Love. I think about my uncle, and I think of love. He was a symbol of love. Everything, and this is what's so upsetting about our world, everything he did was for love, was to bring happiness to people. All he did was hope. All he wanted to do was help people, put a smile on their face, entertain them, make them forget about their troubles for a little bit, and make the world a better place. I mean, he heal the world, we are the world, Earth Song, donations, and all the charitable things he did. It's like there's so much love in this person. It upsets me that they try to erase everything that he's done with all these lies, because it's like you know what he's done. It's been written. It's been shown. the donations and the people he's helped. There's so many people that he's helped that you don't even know about, that I don't even know about. Someone posted a story, I think maybe a month ago, and I was reading about it for the first time, but this was my uncle. This is how he operated. He was always helping people.
Larry Nimmer, how should Michael be remembered?
I think Michael should be remembered as a great artist, songwriter, dancer, singer, great humanitarian, as a great representative of the childlike nature, as a visionary, but also, I guess, maybe as a tragic tale. If you're too trusting, this is what can happen. But I think Michael should be remembered for all the wonderful things he was.
It's been incredible collecting those every year, hearing that insight that people share, especially people that knew Michael, that have worked with Michael, have created with Michael. It's a question that we've asked right from season 1, and I don't know, it's always quite a special moment to hear them played back again.
Yeah, it's interesting asking the question too, because people often they don't know it's coming.
Yeah, we pretty much, unless they've listened to a show, which isn't a common thing, that we don't really submit questions prior to interviews. So yeah, most people do not know that it's coming.
Yeah, and there's always so many different ways to answer it. So he touched so many lives, whether it was people he worked with and knew, or just us fans all around the world. Michael meant so much to us then, and he always will continue to as well. It never gets easier. I still go through periods now of just anger, sadness, confusion. Just even now, 10 years on, it's like, I know it sounds really heavy, but I've said it before, I'll say it again. On June 25th, 2009, it literally was like a part of me just disappeared as well. And it's never felt the same.
Never.
In my life since then.
No.
And it won't.
No. It will not. We also played a number of tribute tracks throughout this episode, which we hope you've enjoyed. The tracks that we featured today were a Heal the World cover by Infinity from Sri Lanka. We also played a track called Billie Jean is Waiting from Henry Gorman. Then there was a track we played from Omar Batty, a long-time friend of Michael, a very loyal friend of Michael's. The track was called Life is a Movie. And head to the show notes. The videos, if there is a video clip, will be available in a link in the show notes. And the Omar Batty song, the film clips really got a beautiful video clip to accompany it, with Omar really heavily paying tribute to Michael, not only in the song, but definitely in the visuals of the video.
Great finds there, Q. I really hope we get the chance to speak to Omar one day. That'd be cool.
That would be cool. We would have reached out very early on, but not recently. He does seem quite private, actually.
He's a very private guy, and also...
He's not Michael's son.
He's not Michael's son.
There you go.
He put a picture of his dad up, his real dad, the other day on social media. Like, he was squashing the rumors himself. As guys, this is my real dad.
Yeah, there's been pictures of his real dad forever, and you can see the resemblance. Seriously, people. Anyway, whole other thing there. Yeah. Social media. People can find us all over the net. We are on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube as the MJCast. We're on podcast apps, of course. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Republic, and all other Android podcast apps. It's a very mysterious place over there for me, but
scary place.
God, yeah. Is it easy? What do they press? Is it just one click like it is for us at Apple? I don't know.
I think they got to download stuff and set it up, and I don't know.
Lordy. But we're there. We have an email as well. You can reach out, themjcast@icloud.com. Did I forget anything?
I don't think so. Email. No, you just said that.
I just said that. But I will forgive you.
It's 12:30.
I was just going to say it's very late for you and you've had a huge day. And this is actually way past my bedtime.
I have a headache. Granddad Bull needs to go get some granddad sleep time.
Yes. Well, Jamon, it is a difficult day, but I'm glad I got to spend this time with you and with Jenny and our listeners. Be good to each other, people. Just support each other. And we're all in the same boat here, and we can all remember Michael together. I look forward to August. We're going to, celebrate Michael instead of just remember him. We can celebrate him today as well, but I look forward to his birthday. For me, that's the happiest time.
Yeah, totally want to echo what you said, Q. I might put something Michael on, maybe Private Home Movies or something like that. We'll see. But, thinking of you, mate, as well at this tough time.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to sign off. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the MJCast. We will be back when there's a new show. So thank you, and Michael on.
Keep Michaeling.
The MJCast.